Welcome to the Andy Staples Show, and this is a Thursday for Friday show. We're recording this on Thursday. If you were listening in podcast form, it's coming out Friday. What do we love to do Fridays in the off season? Speculate on realignment. Guys, the commissioner of a Power 5 conference was at a Group of 5 basketball game on Wednesday night. George Kliavkoff went to SMU. I feel like we're not making enough of this.
and it leaked out. The word got out he was going to do it, and he was like, "You know what? Screw it. I'm still going to do it."
Showed up in his NBA Finals hat, reminiscent of Rob Lowe wearing the NFL hat at the playoff game. Like this is something, guys, because something's gonna happen soon. I think like they don't start showing up on the campuses unless something's happening.
Guys, I just think they're just trying to make me feel like I'm in the West Coast. Like that's the whole thing, right? Like Dallas is the Pacific West, right?
Yeah. Did you? I mean, they're coming to your neighborhood here, Ari. Did you take them out to dinner last night? Or
yeah, I should have. They were. I know Chris Vanini was at the basketball game. But
with
yeah,
binoculars.
Yeah. Good on him for getting the best view. But yeah, like that. I know that the people at SMU have been dying to be in the Power 5. I know Sonny Dykes was dying to be in the Power 5 while at SMU. And I do think that it is interesting because he is the person I thought of. And, I don't know if I want to start.
He's already in the Power 5.
But that's what I was going to say. And I don't know if I want to start this podcast off with a flaming hot Ari take.
Go for it. That's the best part.
Well, maybe it's not a take. It's just a thought that if SMU joins the Pac-12, with USC and UCLA departing the Pac-12, but Oregon staying, would Sonny Dykes be at a higher profile place at SMU or at TCU in the new Big 12 without Texas and Oklahoma?
Well, we probably need to back up and ask Andy, if SMU joins the Pac-12, who will still be in the Pac-12 when they join it?
That is the greatest question because, so Max and I have been working on stuff over the last few days, trying to gather as much information as we can, because like when it came out that George Kliavkoff was visiting SMU, there was a lot of what does it all mean? And I do think it's important to talk about what it means, because clearly they're moving down the road on this thing. You got the visit to SMU, you got reports of discussions with San Diego State. This sounds like they're about to make a move. Now, from what I'm told by the people in the TV world, when you're adding these two teams, it's not necessarily to strengthen your audience for a TV contract. It's to strengthen your level of inventory, your quantity. Because we've heard multiple times that the next Pac-12 media rights deal will include a streaming component to it. Streaming requires quantity, and that matters more in the streaming environment that it does in the linear environment, because in the linear environment, there's only so many. And when I say linear, I mean like cable TV or, what we traditionally know as TV, even whether you get it, through Sling or through DirecTV or however you do it, they have limited spots. There are limited spaces. Here's the time slots. Here's the channels. If you're on Amazon Prime or Apple TV, there's unlimited time slots, unlimited channels. So this would be a quantity play. Now, here's the thing, Max, as you were kind of leading me into this. What does this mean for that deal? What does it mean for the existing Pac-12 schools? I get the sense, I don't know about you, Max, but I got the sense that the Pac-12 schools do not want to leave the Pac-12, that they want to stay together. But also, if this deal is not good, and so far they're not done with it yet, which is a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do they have to start thinking about it? Because the Big 12, I don't think they're done trying to say, hey, look, we got our deal. We're with ESPN and Fox. Do you want to do that, or do you want to do this?
Yeah, I think the timing of this is important to point out. And by the way, we will have a story up Thursday on The Athletic updating all of the things going on here in realignment that a lot of people contributed to. So let's just remember here. So in the summer, Pac-12 said they're taking their media rights to market.
Mm-hmm.
There is an exclusive negotiating window with their current partners. That got extended a bit because of the Big Ten deal needed to get done. So October 7 comes out that their exclusive window is closed, and now they can take it to market, and they can talk to Amazon and the streamers and all that stuff. But that's 4 months ago.
Yeah.
And at the end of October, the Big 12 closed its deal or agreed to its deal to extend with its current partners. I just feel like every day this Pac-12 TV deal is not done, it just stirs a little bit more concern and doubt among the remaining members
Right.
about what is our financial future. Can we even get a sum that, I mean, they need to be, now that the Big 12 has set that number, right? They're at about their average is going to be 380.
Yeah, it's about spread
annual
across
average
12
is 380.
schools. Yeah,
for 12 over 12.
And this is just TV rights,
just TV, not full
for the home
distribution.
games,
right?
Not playoff money, not CFP, not NCAA tournament revenue, not bowl revenue. So when you add all that in, you're talking, high 40s, maybe low
close
50s
50
per
potentially.
school.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that the Big 12 didn't not just jump them in line, but also like set a bar of like now some people might feel like that deal was, the modest in terms of just extending and kind of punting down to 30-31, but they set a bar of here's how much money we're going to be getting, and the Pac-12 is trying to figure out some way to reach that number to be similar into it. And so to be 4 months into this negotiating time and either not be at that number or getting this feedback that you need to go out and add more schools so that we can pay you more money. Like I think it definitely gives some fuel to Brett Yormark to continue to kind of embrace the chaos there and convince them that, hey, maybe in the summer you didn't love the idea of coming to the Big 12, but look at your current situation. It's not getting better.
Well, my assumption was that ESPN was going to do a deal with the Pac-12 because ESPN needs content at 10:30 at night on a Saturday. It needs games, and nobody else has those games other than the Pac-12 and the Mountain West. Now, if I'm the Mountain West, this is where I go, ESPN, let's sign up a deal. And right now, even if it's for you to put us on ESPN2, because if the Pac-12 goes with a couple of streamers and doesn't go with ESPN, like Mountain West may jump up to ESPN on that one. But if I'm the Big 12, here's what I'm saying to, let's say, the Four Corners schools. So that's Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah. I'm saying, listen, you come with us, we suddenly fill that need for ESPN. By the way, it's already a partner. So they're going to give us extra money. So that'll cover you guys.
Yeah.
Like, it's
I mean, this has been the end
offer.
game for the Big 12 since July, really, since Brett Yormark stepped in as the new commissioner. And so now obviously there's a ton of value in Oregon and Washington, and they're in kind of this unique position where it's like, okay, can you get a deal at the Pac-12 where there's unequal revenue sharing? Can you, whoever the new Big Ten commissioner is, do they want you? Like, I think if you're at those schools, it's hard to predict really how these next few months are going to play out.
Well, I think Kevin Warren leaving the Big Ten for the Bears, though, puts a wrench in, is the Big Ten a possibility?
Yeah.
Because you have to make a decision soon. Like, they're not up against a hard and fast deadline for that Pac-12 media rights deal right now. Like the Big Ten got agreed to in principle, I want to say June of this year for a deal or June of last year for a deal that starts in July of this year. That's about as late as you can go. So we're not there yet, but they're getting there. And Kevin Warren was still pushing for further expansion west. I don't know that he was getting a lot of traction among the Big Ten.
He was dropping
presidents.
hints. I'm not sure everybody agreed with him within his own conference.
Yeah, because I think if they'd have wanted it, if the Big Ten presidents had been down with that, they would have done it, and they didn't do it. So if you're Oregon and Washington, you're sitting in a weird position right now where you are clearly the best value the Pac-12 has, but do you want what that conference is going to be and what it's going to be able to make? And I don't know the answer to that, but there's another wrinkle to this. And Ari, you and I talked about this, and Max, you and I have talked about this too. The way the college football playoff has changed now that the 12-team format has been approved. Like, if you're Oregon and Washington, would you want to be in a different league, or would you want to be in this league where you can probably win it a lot of years and be in the playoff and maybe make that money up on the back end through donors and people just being excited that you are winning and going to the playoff a lot?
Well, and I think like if you're at San Diego State or you're at SMU, like if you turn down Pac-12, you probably get fired from your job, right? Like you definitely need to take that. It's a big deal to everybody to be perceived as Power 5. But like, I'm curious how you see this, Ari. Like I kind of wonder with these programs, if you come into the Pac-12, let's say the Pac-12 sticks together, and it's it's that 12-team league. You're coming in at like the bottom of that league, right? Like, I mean, do you view that as a better opportunity than now that there's finally access? Maybe you stay where you are and have an opportunity to get into that 12-team playoff.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's interesting.
There's a big money difference. I'm not trying to say that money is not like consequential here. But
I was going to say is, do people who are making these decisions about what conference there's going to be in, and officials of schools care about making the playoff more than they care about making their bag? Because like I think that being in that position in the Pac-12 would be more lucrative, obviously, right?
Right. Yeah, the bag always wins. So
the bag does win, but the thing that I think.
But here's the thing: if it's like we're talking about, TV rights distribution money, I would say if the difference is $5 million a year or less between conferences, if you are one of the schools that hopes to win a conference, then you stay where you are if it's easier to win the conference.
The thing about it too is that like now as the playoff is expanding and conferences are changing, like I think it's interesting that places like SMU and TCU, are concerned, not TCU, but SMU and Sonny Dykes, when he went to TCU, was concerned about this notion of Power 5. And like that is kind of going away.
Yeah.
So like I wonder, like if you like, I agree with that, Andy. It's like if the money isn't substantial enough for it to really, change things, I wouldn't chase perception in a time when perception is changing dramatically. Because I don't know how we're going to view the Pac-12 in 5 years, depending on how things shake out. We don't know how we're going to view the Big 12. So
I think the money is so different between the American and the Pac-12, even Andy, what the Pac-12 might get. That
as you do make
that jump.
As you know from people you've talked to, though, one of the things that's potentially on the table here is SMU or San Diego State or both of them saying we will take a very small bag for the next few years if you let us in this club. So that is kind of worth like how much are you willing to sell out for that opportunity?
And that's what I would do if I were them. It's because it doesn't change much for you currently, but could make it a lot better in the future. If you're SMU or San Diego State, you go. I'm talking about if you are Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, Oregon, Washington. I think the math changes on what you do because of the 12-team playoff.
The thing that I was going to say is because the Power 5 is such an interesting distinction, or a distinction that matters to teams that were formerly in the Group of 5. My thought process always was you want to be in those bigger leagues because you want to get more money that you can reinvest into the program and make it a more successful and bigger entity. So the idea of taking a smaller bag, at least at the beginning, is interesting to get in, if it's a long-term play and hoping that you kind of line your pockets down the line. But the whole point of going to a bigger school or a bigger conference is to make your school a more thoroughly invested institution that's propped up to win at a higher level when you're playing against the teams that you're joining. So the money will be right, and it could be right. And I do kind of think the idea is fascinating of take less money up front just to get a seat at the table and then hope more food gets passed down.
I mean, Rutgers and Maryland did that. And it worked.
And it worked out well for them. Yeah. So, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just think it's an interesting situation because perception is changing. Power 5 is going away. We don't know what's going to happen after SMU joins the Pac-12. We don't know how much smaller the bag is going to be when they get there, how long it's going to take to be made whole, and what their viewership market and all the things are going to, that pertains to is going to respond to being in that conference 5, 6, 7 years down the line. Because I do think that, with conference expansion, and obviously this is being thought quite a bit with all the television revenue that's at stake. But what is the sport going to look like in 10 years, I think, is a really fascinating discussion as it pertains to what we're discussing today.
Yeah, because I think that the notion of Power Five is a product of the 14 playoff, just as the notion of a BCS conference was a product of the BCS. And so those were in the BCS era, there were 6, and then the Big East falls off, and you have the Power Five. Now, and we've talked about the whole idea of the Power Two and all that, but I do think the way the playoff is structured, you can have 6 or 7 leagues that go into every season feeling like they have a legit chance to put teams in the playoff. The Power Five ones, just based on what we've seen through the years, they're going to put somebody in every year. So Stephen Larkin in the chat asked a really interesting question. Do you guys really think the Big Ten and the SEC are permanently done expanding? In the future, I see a Fox Super Conference and an ESPN Super Conference, so they'll eventually come for Washington and Oregon. So I do think once the Big Ten and SEC's current deals run out, that they will be looking, but that will also be much closer to the ACC's grant of rights expiring. And that's where those schools come into play as well. So I don't know that the Big Ten, with no leader right now, is looking to add more. And Oregon and Washington are going to have to make a decision here in the next 2 or 3 months. So I don't know that you, if you're them, that you wait on them.
But when that grant of rights does expire, we're going to get another full round of this, right?
Oh, 100%.
Like, it's like there's no way that that's not going to happen.
Well, and it's like these leagues are figuring out, and the Big Ten's an example of it, Big 12 too. These leagues are figuring out, okay, well, we should be doing shorter deals so that we can, have a chance to make more money sooner, right? And so the smaller we make these, grant of rights and these deals together, we're just going to keep having more rounds of this.
Yeah, and I think what's also interesting, another reason to do this short deal is you don't know how technology is going to change or what the dominant distribution method is going to be. Because at some point, there's a great story in The Athletic by our sports business writers that came out in late January. It's about how we're kind of in no man's land now, because you've got linear TV still exists, the cable bundle still exists. Those entities are still paying hefty rights fees for stuff. And that's still how most people get their stuff. Streaming, we know will be the dominant form of distribution in the future. And you got streamers paying to get rights. But at the moment, we have to pay for the bundle. We, the consumer, have to pay for the bundle. And we have to pay for the streamers if we want to see everything. That's a bad spot for us to be in as the consumer. So at what point does the consumer go, okay, the bundle's dead, I'm not going to pay for that anymore. I want this. Give it to me on streaming and bundle the streamers so that I can buy it with one purchase.
I am.
Clearly, that was just way too smart for both of us, and we're just
no. I
just
think what you're
dumbfounded.
saying, bundle the streamers, like you pay one monthly fee, and then you get Hulu and Amazon and all those in one thing. Because it's like I was thinking about how much money I spend every month watching sports and watching shows.
Yep,
I must be subscribed to every single thing that there is. Because like I am the person who's like, oh, I want to watch that show. Like I don't care how much it costs. Like I buy it, and then it's just like I'm paying $160 a month probably on streaming services.
Yeah.
Stephen Larkin asked in the chat, isn't that basically reinventing cable? Exactly. It's reinventing cable, but the difference is you're not paying for the equipment. The underground cable or the satellite dish was a significant part of your bill before, and now it's not necessary. Now it's the underground fiber optic wire that brings you the internet. So to us, the consumer, nothing changes but the interface. But right now, we are writing more checks every day. I'm with you, Ari. I was looking at the other night. I'm like, how many different things am I subscribed to? Because I was watching 1923 on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, I watch Your Honor on Showtime. I'm paying for Showtime now.
That Poker Face show just came out on Peacock.
Yeah,
which is really good show. And I realized, shoot, I'm paying for Peacock too.
Guys, they're bringing back Party Down on Stars. I'm going to have to sign up for that.
No, I'm not signing up for Stars. Go sell it to another stream. I can't do it. I can't.
I mean, I'm at the point now where it's like, I don't care where things are released. I am already subscribed. That's it. Like I'm there. So, and it's like, Two, cable. I don't remember how much my cable bill was, but I have YouTube TV.
Don't
Just
worry,
during-
Sling's not the title sponsor anymore. You can say that.
No, I was just
You're
going
allowed
to
to say
say
that.
but I cancel it during
Non-football season.
non-football season.
That's the other piece, like DirecTV or Dish, I believe back in the day when you had the actual dish, satellite dish on your house, sometimes you were signing like a 2-3 year contract. And cable, you could go.
It was like a cell phone.
Yeah, cable, you could go month to month, but it was much more difficult to just turn it off and turn it back on. Like somebody had to come to your house.
Yeah.
Like now, it doesn't work that way.
I've been watching Shrinking on Apple, which is great, but Apple's one of those where it's like, I don't remember re-upping this. You know what I mean? It's just kinda, they get you.
I think you get it when you get an iPhone. I think they give it to you for like a few months.
Mhm.
And then like I get like emails all the time. Here's your receipt from Apple. I don't even open it anymore. Like I don't even know what it is. That's why Apple's the best company in the world, because they can just like, I'm paying 99 cents for the cloud. I didn't even know I use the cloud.
And they're just extracting money from you every month.
$8 a month out of my bank
But
account.
that is so when the Big Ten deal expires in 2030, distribution may look completely different, because 10 years ago, people were like, I can't possibly do streaming. The delay's too long and the buffering's too bad. Well, I've been fully streaming. We had a satellite dish up until 2019. And I've been fully streaming since then. And as long as your router's in good shape. Now, my router died a couple weeks ago, and that was a bad weekend. But as long as your router's in good shape, like you're good to go. If you got
I hate
a
the
decent
delay.
internet connection.
I hate it.
I've gotten used to it.
You you get used
Doesn't
to
bother
it.
me.
You get used
And
to
the
it.
delay has gotten shorter and shorter for
Yeah.
me. Like I
hate-
started out like 2 minutes behind, and I'm like 10 seconds behind.
It's terrible for two things: live betting, and also
Yeah, I can see that.
following along on Twitter. So like I'm like a kind of person who likes like when there's a sporting event on and everybody's watching it, like the other night when LeBron broke the record for all-time
Total
points. Like everybody's like, oh my God, he did it. Like this is what a fadeaway. It's like, and then like it was like 30 seconds before I got to see it. And like, I guess the moral of the story is put your phone down, dude, until the commercial. But like, I feel like I'm always behind everybody.
That's just you.
I want to be up to speed.
I'm just kidding. No, I think for a lot of people, that is the reason they continue to subscribe to cable. And, the streamers have to figure out how to fix that. They have to figure out how to make it work. And I think as technology improves, that'll happen. But, as for what it means for the conferences, I do think when the Big Ten deal runs out, when the next SEC deal runs out, they'll have some decisions to make, because at that point, do you do your own streaming service? Do you sell it like the NFL? Now, the NFL and Sunday Ticket, big news yesterday was that a judge certified the classes for a class action suit. Basically, everybody who had Sunday Ticket can now sue the NFL. So it's gonna be interesting to see how all that shakes out.
I thought that when Amazon Prime got the NFL game, that it would just be annoying and a disaster to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just found out it was just as easy as opening up the other apps.
The problem is you can't change channels during the game, and that's weird.
Yeah.
That's
like I there were some times I went to sports bars and they just like had no idea how to get that on their TV.
Yeah.
But I do like the alternative streams that you can watch.
Yeah.
And I think it's fun the way the things you can do with that level of bandwidth. But I don't know that the world is quite ready for it. But I think it's gonna be ready sooner than everybody thinks for that to be the mainstream consumption method.
Andy, does this like seemingly like it seems at this point in time, this might be wrong, but it seems like perception wise, it seems like the Pac12 TV talks aren't going great or aren't going as well as they would have dreamed.
Right.
Does that give you skepticism about like this fantasy that people had that these streamers would come in and drop really
huge bags?
mind-blowing
And
sums?
I was guilty of that early too, and then I had some folks who work in the TV world disabuse me of that notion, because I just figured the premium they'd have to pay to get in, because everybody wants linear, they were just going to have to pay more. Like they were going to have to overpay, but they have not been willing to overpay. And that I think is the biggest difference. And like ESPN, I doesn't sound like ESPN is out of it with the Pac-12, but it sounds like ESPN is going to pay what ESPN wants to pay. And for ESPN, what do you want from the Pac-12? Here's what you want. You want one 10:30 p.m. kickoff a week. So that's like 13 games. And then you want 3, 4, 5 of your best that you run at 3:30 Eastern or 8 p.m. Eastern. And that's what you want. And then everything else would go to the streamer. But the streamer is going to want some good stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you split that up? It's a really tricky needle to thread.
Which is where you get into the question of, from the network side, do you just want to consolidate this and pick a side and say, hey, we think actually these schools should go over to this conference?
Yeah, that is the interesting. When we come back, let's talk about that dynamic, because I think what Max just said is the key to everything. We'll be right back. I don't want to be a tattletale, but Marcel Dinkins just made me run real fast. Okay, it was an intervals run and it was training day, so I needed to run fast, but that's not how fast I'd normally run if left to my own devices. And that's the whole point. That's what makes Peloton great, is I have somebody telling me to push harder because I can do more, because they know I can do more. It's hard to stick to workouts. It's hard to do it on your own. With Peloton, you have people helping you design the workouts, push you through the workouts, and create this incredible variety. You think it's just the bike, but it's not. It's the bike. It's the tread. It's tread boot camps. It's weight workouts with dumbbells. It's everything you need. It's yoga. You don't even need weights. Everything you need to stay fit or get fit, with people who are willing to help you through what is a very difficult process. You don't have to be a super athlete to join Peloton, because they can help you get there. And then once you get there, they can keep pushing you. So try Peloton risk-free for a 30-day home trial, new members only. It's not available in remote locations. You can see additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial. That's onepeloton.com/home-trial. Give it a shot. You're going to love it. Okay, so we were just talking about what ESPN needs in terms of whether it's this next Pac-12 deal or something else. They need some games to show you at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday nights, and probably a few at 10 or 10:30 p.m. Eastern on Friday nights. Those games need to originate in the Mountain or Pacific time zone, or in Ari's weirdo home state that does not believe in daylight savings time and shows
they
the
don't
wrong
believe
side.
in the science. Yeah.
Well, it shows the wrong side on daylight savings time. Like, we all should get rid of the time change, but we should stick on the daylight savings time side of it. So Arizona gets it doubly wrong.
Did you get that, Max?
but at any rate, part of the year Arizona is in the Pacific time zone for our purposes. They're all.
I find it weird that I don't know what time it is whenever I call my parents.
Yeah. As they will say, they're always on Mountain Standard Time. That is their time zone. So that's what ESPN needs. So if you are Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, as Max pointed out, you would sell to Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. You could be those games. And BYU can be those games. And ESPN already works with us. We already have a deal with them.
And Gonzaga can start a football program. That's not that hard.
How about that?
No,
yeah,
keep going.
But they could bring Gonzaga in as a basketball member and have an incredible basketball league, because it's already pretty damn good. But that's a selling point. Now, as we pointed out earlier, and I cannot stress this enough, I do not get the sense that anybody who's currently in the Pac-12 would like to leave the Pac-12. Like, it would have to be a really bad situation for that to happen. But are they getting to that level of situation?
Yeah, that's logically, like, as soon as they, and this was a smart move on George Kliavkoff's part to say, we're going to get this thing started, and that will hold people in the boat, and that will buy time too, to just say, all right, we're going to go through this process. Doesn't make sense for you to bail until we get a number here at the end of this, and I show you we're going to be okay together.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It also sounds like he sold them a lot bigger numbers on the front end.
And that's the danger. If you overpromise, here's what I think we're gonna get because I'm gonna go partner up with these streamers, and then that's stuff's not coming together. Then you've got a problem where this might not be anybody's preferred outcome to split up, but man, you got to deliver something now. You got to deliver it pretty quickly. I think.
And I think the scars there with the Pac-12 particularly is they were overpromised and underdelivered by the last administration too. And I think that's a tough thing for them to swallow, even though they do want to be together. So, but here's the thing: I think if they get close to what the Big 12 gets, then it's enough. If especially like if you're Oregon, you're Washington, you're looking at, okay, we can win this league, we can go to the playoff every year. The league gets more difficult if you go somewhere else.
It does, but this is where I was, and this might be a cop out, but like this is where I look at the stuff and I still come back to like, ultimately this is going to play out the way that ESPN and Fox want it to play out.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Now Fox,
and maybe that might sound cynical. I'm not saying Playoff Cup has no role, but like they are once again in this situation.
Well, they're the ones driving the bus because they're the ones who are holding the bag. Yeah.
Well, Fox at this point, it sounds like they've got what they want of the Big 12. I don't know if they want any more. Like it may be all on ESPN if they want to kick in more. But the thing is, if you're kicking in more for 4 additional schools, you can make that work. Like that, and it makes it a lower price than you buying an entire league. Or close. And I don't think they care how they spend it. I think they plan to spend a certain amount of money, and that's what they're going to spend. And they don't care how it gets divvied up. But it's very important, obviously, to these leagues how it gets divvied up.
Sure.
What a world. I go back to the innocent days before July of 2021, before the Texas-Oklahoma move, when we're like, well, it's going to be a while before there's any more realignment. This may never end.
The realignment never ends.
Yeah, never ends. I remember, you remember there was the Big 12 media days that preceded that big move, and Bob Bowlesby said, like, I'm not losing sleep over it. Like, we're fine. I remember at that media days, I was busy talking to players about NIL because that had just started. And I was like, that seems like a pretty big story, And then, 2 weeks later, who gives a shit,
Yeah,
that's funny. It's crazy. But yes, I appreciate it as someone who does podcasts through the off season, like to give us something to talk about. I mean, the commissioner of a Power 5 conference was on a site visit Wednesday. Like, that's big news.
I wonder if he got himself a fresh Shugs bagel this morning.
Might have. Did they go to Twisted Root or any of those other Dallas institutions?
Twisted Root's fine.
It was okay.
I like Twisted Root. Come on, guys. You guys are
I could really go for a bagel right now.
They have one at the airport too. You could just hit that on the way out.
I know, but the one by SMU is really nice. It's a good environment, good place to watch games. Although he already watched the game.
So, like, what order of operations for you, Andy? Like, do you think that I think the question now, based off the site visit, is do they expand first or do they get a deal first?
I think one is tied to the other. If there's there's going to be a streaming component to this deal, it sounds like. So if you're in business with a streamer, you've got to get more quantity. So whether they officially expand first and then make the deal, or they make the deal with the promise to the people they're making the deal with that they're going to expand, it's going to happen. But the question is, are the other schools, the legacy schools, in? Because until we know they're in, there's no deal. That's the issue right now. So if you're Brett Yormark, you are hammering away on that until they tell you, no, we're making the deal with the Pac-12. We're done here. And until we see that, all this stuff is fair game. I don't like a lot of times with the realignment stuff, we're very recklessly speculating. I don't think we're doing that right now. I think all of this feels very much on the table.
one thing I probably didn't appreciate enough back on Halloween when the Big 12 got that deal done, is like, I kind of wonder, do you guys think like, would the Pac-12 be trying to poach the Big 12 right now if the Big 12 had just said no deal, we'll wait and go to market in 24?
I think it's something they'd be talking about. I don't. It depends on if they actually wanted to.
Yeah,
but
at least that would be another option on the table at this point.
And that's what it sounds like. What happened with that is the Big 12 came with a much more realistic view of what it is and said, here's what we're willing to do. And ESPN and Fox are like, that sounds very reasonable. Let's do that. The Pac-12 came with a much more inflated version. And they're like, no, we'll talk to you again when you're actually serious about this. Like when you have a more real view of what you are, bring some numbers to us and we'll talk. The problem is it became very much like the situation where you've got one linebacker spot and you offer two linebackers and the first guy who takes the deal gets the scholarship. Big 12 got scholarship.
Well, we talked a lot about, the Oklahoma and Texas represented 50% of the value of the Big 12 or whatever. But like, that's kind of the thing we're kind of leaving unsaid here is like, what did USC and UCLA represent in terms of the value of the Pac-12?
Exactly. And we're going to find out. Now, I don't want to leave everybody on a cliffhanger, but the fact of the matter is we don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. And again, I think the Pac-12, based on people we've talked to, they want to stay together. I think they'll do everything they can to stay together. But until I see a deal, I'm not closing the door on anything. So get ready for a spring of wild and rampant speculation until they can get that thing done. And as a podcaster, I say thank you. Thank you, Pac-12. Thank you, ESPN. Thank you, whatever streamers are involved with this thing. I'm assuming Amazon and Apple. Because we're going to have some great shows. We'll talk to you later.